welcome to Ars Arcanum. I'm Autumn. As always, I'm joined by Nora.
That's me.
And Tilly had to take a brief break from podcasting. They'll be back soon. Until then, we were joined by a special guest, Jackson.
Hello, I'm the third chair.
Jackson, have you read Elantris?
No, I have not. I received a line message yesterday.
At what point did you receive this line message?
About a day ago. Asking me, hey, do you want to come on this podcast and read chapters 16, 17, and 18 of Elantris? It'll be really funny. And then I said, sure, should I read chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of Elantris? And you said, nah, it'll be better if you just read chapters 16, 17, and 18 of Elantris.
What we said was, if you have time.
But we didn't give you time. We
Listen, it's their choice how to spend the 24 hours notice we gave them to be on this podcast.
I just want to know, I've crunch read way more books than like the 200 pages this is in way shorter time. I've read like 500-page Star Trek books in a day before to get caught up. I'm very last minute. I'm bad at scheduling. Em knows this.
Yeah.
So I would have, but then I thought it'll probably be funnier if I just go in and do this. The thing that tipped me over the edge is I looked how far you were in, because I thought this had been going on for far longer, and the chapters were just longer or something. But no, you're fairly early in. So if I do eventually read this fucking terrible book, I can just go back to the beginning and do it that way. Because I do intend to join you on the Cosmere journey one day.
We're both just starting and also 200 some pages in. It's ridiculous. This book is so nothing.
Yeah, I imagine so. But I had read about 3 chapters about a year. You can go literally check when I tweeted if you want to search. It's my and the mental fortitude to read fantasy. Because I don't think I have the mental fortitude to read fantasy, and it's Artef. Artef Dileth meeting Hrathrin and being like, oh, his accent's feudal, and I'm like, this is it. I can't. There's too many made up words. I wondered going into these chapters. I wonder if as the book becomes settled, the made up words go down in frequency because you already know the language and you can just
absolutely
do
not
work. And no, if anything, it has gone up in frequency.
It's so much.
I'm just glad that you're reading the up-to-date version, because we discovered last time that originally the adjective Jindo was originally Jindoese in the first printing.
Which makes a lot of the racist caricature even worse.
No, thank you, I say to thee. It's already extremely racist. So I like the idea of Brandon coming to this, reading it 10 years later and going, oh, it's fucking racist. And then deciding that all he can do is just, I'll make it just, I've got to change this. Maybe it'll do something.
Control F.
Control F. But yeah, so I a year or so ago thought, everyone was reading The Way of Kings, and I'm a start from the beginning person, so I'm like, well, I'll start from the beginning and read the Cosmere stuff properly. And everyone was like, that's stupid, why would you do it that way? And I'm like, look, I'm ridiculous, let me do it this way. Got about 40 pages into Elantris and was like, Jesus Christ, I can't.
It's rough.
But now that I have this podcast, I might eventually, cross this bridge, because I'm told Mistborn is actually good, and everyone loves Stormlight.
Mistborn is actually good. It's really amazing that one year later he's going to put out a good novel after this. But normally we do a what books have you been reading segment. We didn't tell you about that at all. So if you don't have anything, that's fine.
I'm halfway through The Stand. Because just
Man or Machine.
I mean, is there not one among your ranks?
Is there no one who values courage over life?
I mean, oh, Jesus Christ.
What is happening right now?
Proto-Men lyrics.
Okay.
How do I still know the lyrics to the Stand, Man or Machine?
Anyway, you were talking about The Stand, not Man or Machine.
I'm only halfway through because it's the longest book ever written. It's not, but it goes on forever. I'm in the middle of the book 2. It's broken to 3 books, and it's really long and bad at the moment. I really like the first book so far, which was all the stuff with the plague, the famous stuff in the book, at least from the setup.
Mm-hmm.
As it progresses, book 2 is a bit more about the established characters and their relationship and less of the intercutted society falling stuff. And let me tell you, Stephen King in 1977 or 79, where it was, I forget exactly what year. It might be 79. I think Shining was 77, actually. Anyway, there was nobody to stop him doing anything. He could just write whatever he wanted, and usually what he wrote was, all right, there's a girl, and she just, needs to fuck you. But it's so annoying. Isn't it so annoying when girls just need to fuck you? And this has happened multiple times. This has happened so many times in this book. There are 3, main point of view things, and 2 of them are guys, and both of their last chapters have been about girls randomly meeting up with them and needing to fuck them and being kind of annoying after the fact. That's Larry's entire arc, is that chapter repeated. Nick hasn't had that too much, but he did get it last chapter. And then in the other chapter, in the other point of view chapter, Franny has this from the other side where she has a man with her who just wants to fuck her, but he's like a fat incel, so it's gross when he does it. Because that's Stephen King's understanding of morality. Is when the cool guy does it, it's a bit bad, but it's still pretty cool because he's such a cool guy. Anyway, also has introduced a when something in a book from the 70s is really offensive and you're like, how do I describe it without being offensive?
Yeah, I also read Salem's Lot.
But has introduced a character with learning difficulties. So you can imagine and how that goes, and what that goes is he's saying complete nonsense sometimes, but sometimes he says things that maybe he can perceive the true nature of reality. Shit. Yeah. Damn.
Oh, I guess you missed the autistic caricature that appears in Elantris. That character didn't show up in these chapters.
What? That sounds amazing. Thank you, Brandon.
There's a character who is always mumbling to himself, doing math problems in his head that nobody really gets, and it's gross.
The thing that he does is when somebody says a location or a country, he just pipes in and says how many steps it takes to get there.
It's great. It's good.
That's what being autistic is. Brandon understands me so well. But I'm mostly enjoying it. It's a bit of a slog at the moment. I'll hopefully be finished by the time Just King Things puts out their Stand episode next month. But that's what I'm reading at the moment.
What are you reading, Autumn?
I started a new book today or yesterday called The Raven Tower, which I don't have much to say about yet, but except that I like it. But between episodes, I finished Uprooted, which is if you're reading Elantris and having a bad time, you should check out Uprooted. It's just a very normal fantasy novel, pretty unremarkable, just fairy tale shit, and it's very good.
Your tone has changed on this book.
I've got the third act. It kind of loses its step in the third act.
This is the one with the girl and the wizard, right?
Yeah. I'll explain that in a second.
I know what that means because I've also keep on more Orden's reading. But you can't say this is the book with the girl and the wizard and expect that.
I'll explain the girl and the wizard in a minute.
I know, but yeah.
But how many books do you know that are about the girl and the wizard? Name one.
A lot.
Name one right now.
Tombs
For $5, name the wizard.
The wizard.
Because I'm a motherfucking wizard.
The wizard.
Anyway, No, I think the book kind of like tries to go for a big actiony third act that doesn't really work, but it's fine. But there is some shit in this book, which is, people might recall, because I had started this book last time. So every 10 years, there's a wizard who lives in a tower, and every 10 years he comes to the local villages and he chooses one of the girls from the village who has to come live with him for 10 years. And all the girls who he used to have will say, oh, he never touched me. It wasn't a sex thing. He just liked to have some company around the tower.
Oddly enough, that's the opener.
The book gets very defensive about this. And, so the protagonist of the book is a girl that he's chosen, and it turns out that she has some magical powers too, and so he starts training her in the ways of witchcraft. And, the other important thing here is that she's 18, and because
nothing good comes after that ad.
And because of how wizards work in this world, he's like 200. But she comes on to him, so it's okay.
I just need you to know you can't start with the important thing to remember is that she's 18.
The book is very defensive about this, because if you think about it, she's 18 and he's 200. He is her teacher, and also he owns her. But it's totally okay because she's the one that's hitting on him, not the other way around. He tries to get her to stop, but he just can't resist her feminine wiles. And so there's... The other thing is that in the audiobook version, I checked, the sex scene near the end of the book is 25 minutes long. It's...
So, like, real-time narration.
Yeah. And there's a foreplay scene, and then they decide not to fuck, and then that is also pretty gratuitous, but then the actual sex scene at the end of the book is intolerable.
It seems like this author is just into older guys.
I think the author is just into older guys.
What this sounds like to me, and all the things you're saying, is that, like, the part where this is clearly a, like, I assume a, known genre author who understands why this is fucked up is now getting a bit shy about the fact that she's written an entire book to justify a fantasy about,
right,
being the only one for the wizard in this tower.
Well, so, like, this author, I think, has some other, like, 5 or 7 book fantasy series, and then this is her new series after that one finished.
Okay.
And so now I'm really curious if, like, she got some pushback on some shit in the previous series, Like, I'm wondering, like, did people object to some of the fucky shit and she's getting defensive? Because she goes to great lengths to explain how it's okay. Because, if you think about it, this 18-year-old girl, she's gonna be 200 someday, so what's the difference,
This is so much. I would have more, like, because if she just committed to this, right? It's like trying to cancel Twilight, which is also fucked up. But in a way, I was like, what are you gonna do? It's this fucking, like, ladies' fantasy. What are you gonna do? Tell her, it's bad for women. But in this world where she's, like, written out a list of reasons why it's okay, actually, it becomes way funnier.
Yeah. And both the girl and the wizard both explain to each other and the reader why actually it's okay. And they go through every possible objection that the reader could have and say, actually, it's fine because, we didn't do this before, but now, like, she's been released from my control because she's an official witch or whatever, So actually that part settled.
Dobby is a free elf.
Anyway, that book's really good.
What's it about?
I believe you.
Okay,
it's just very funny.
Apart from the part where she's fucking an old man wizard, what's it about?
So kind of. I mean, it's pretty, like, straightforward fairy tale stuff, because it's like, she learns she has magical powers, and she knows she's gonna learn magic, and she's not supposed to leave the tower for 10 years, but she's just, like, a very, like, spunky and, like, rambunctious young girl, and she's gonna do what she wants, she's gonna do what she thinks is right, and so when she hears that there's trouble in her home village, she leaves the tower against the wizard's orders, and there is an evil forest, and when you go into the forest, if you inhale, the forest jokerfies you, and you come back and you're a sicko, and the forest over the last 100 years or so has been spreading, and the wizard that she's hanging out with is like, oh no, we're just gonna, like, we can, like, slow the spread, but the forest is gonna do the forest. And she's like, no, we can stop the forest. And, like, there's a little bit of political intrigue, there's a little bit of, like, all this stuff. The big thing that I think this book is about, I guess, is being this, like, spunky young girl, and she goes into this world where all the wizards have, like, magic down to a science. They're like, well, you need to, like, apply this formula, and you need to say the magic words in this specific way. And this girl is like, no, like, the magic is like a song, and, like, sometimes you say the magic words this way, but sometimes you have to do it, like, a little differently, because the flow of the magic is... And she's trying to make magic an art, and that's kind of... I think that's, like, one of the central conflicts of the book, is, like how people want to make things more rigid. But also, sometimes you just want to fuck an old wizard, and you... yeah. I thought I was going to have more and funnier content about the forest that jokerfies people, but that ends up being, like, what the entire book is about, so it feels like spoilers to say more than the forest turns you into a joker.
That's fair.
Like, the first person we hear about it happening to, like, comes back to his home and just is, like, laughing as he, like, murders children and whatever, you know? Like, it's literally that.
I hate when I become the Joker.
I hate to do it. But Nora, have you been reading anything, or... Oh, you're tweeting.
A formidable wielder of arcane magics. The wizard engages from afar. Foregoing close combat in favor of powers more arcane and inscrutable, including Spectral Blade. Improved Spectral Blade.
What is happening? I zoned out for 2 seconds.
Well, you were tweeting, so I was like, well, I have to vamp, but what else can I vamp with but the motherfucking wizard?
But the motherfucking wizard.
Wizard.
This is what you get for not listening to Idle Thumbs episodes from 2008.
This and, like, not hearing the R word every 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, they really go hard on it in those first few.
Oh, I had my own source for that back in the day. It's
Oh,
fine.
I'm sure.
Many sources.
I haven't read shit, dude.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Brandon time.
I committed to watching more anime, and that meant I watched, like, 2 episodes of anime.
Mm-hmm. That's how it goes sometimes.
One of which was... I guess I watched 3 episodes... I watched 3 episodes of anime, one of which was twice as long. And all 3 of them were the first episode of their series. So... I'm killing it out here. And also, 2 of them were kind of the same thing. Because I watched Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and then I watched Fate Stay Night, the 2006 anime.
But only the first episode of each.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously.
Fate seems neat. I want to get into it. And then I also watched the first episode of Nemesis, which is really cool.
Yeah, that show seems rad.
Yeah. Very gory, very sexual.
Yeah.
Very just Noracore stuff as well. Yeah. Brandon time?
Brandon time.
Brandon time.
Is there anything else, Brandon, we wanted to talk... Oh, that novella came out. We should talk about it.
Yeah.
Brandon's
reading
YouTube
it.
thumbnails.
Brandon's YouTube thumbnails are great. We just wanted to make it known that for the first time since we started the podcast, new Brandon content is out. We're not touching it.
We have discussed internally that we might do a Rhythm of War bonus episode. That would be a Patreon exclusive thing. Where it's just like, we have at least 2 guests lined up for it if we do it, and it wouldn't be till like February. But I don't think we're going to do a Dawn Shard thing, you know?
But specifically, we're generally not touching new stuff until we get to it on our podcast.
I'm probably going to keep reading Stormlight just because I'm in it, and I don't want to stop reading it, but I'm not going to...
with Mistborn.
Yeah, I'm not going to read New Mistborn. I'm not going to read New Mistborn.
I will read New Mistborn. You will read New Stormlight. This will keep us tethered.
Yeah. I gotta see if Coppermind has a word count up for the new novella so I can add it to my big spreadsheet of...
11 years of podcasts.
11 years of Ars Arcanum podcasts.
I have to go back to the YouTube thumbnails.
Yes. They're exquisite.
I'm sending one to the fucking chat right now.
Please do. We got Brandon doing a thinking emoji, and it's Sander FAQ number 5. Will I write more Wheel of Time books?
So which the answer is obviously fucking no.
Yeah, like fuck no.
I'm just going to post in the export chat channel these Brandon thumbnails. Should you write a novel? Hey!
I feel like I should be watching more of these Brandon YouTube channels, or YouTube videos, but also it's all just like writing advice, and there's nothing I want less than to like write. So
that's not necessary.
I've watched I've watched the one where he talks about his favorite video games, and first of all,
it's so good.
He speaks like he's like reviewing a game on GameSpot 2006, but like
he does
a little bit more like upbeat. So he's always like, when I first played Halo 2, I was really blown away by the graphics. And it has a wild energy. And then he talks about how good Halo 2 is the good Halo, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, Brandon, you're right.
The video game, the favorite video game thumbnail makes him look just so done with video games.
Same, bro.
He looks like he's being interviewed at E3 in this one.
Oh wow, this is looks like, you know, it's God, Jim Sterling's having like the worst day ever.
Oh
god. Which just makes me think that like when you look sad, you automatically look more British. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, but it is a true fact of life. Oh, you found my other fun one where he's doing like, hey, forget about it.
The other problem with searching for Brandon Sanderson and watching Brandon Sanderson on YouTube is that you get pulled into the algorithm. So here's this one called 10 Overdone Fantasy Tropes, parentheses, that literary agents are tired of seeing.
So if you want advice for pitching your book, there's YouTube for you.
Oh god, author advice, YouTube, and also the industry of that in general is, I hate it in only a way that someone who's gone to fucking a university for creative writing twice can do. It's all a scam. It's all a scam. If you're good at writing, it doesn't matter. And if you're bad at writing, it's not going to fucking help. Like, it doesn't make a difference. It's all unhelpful advice. The only good advice is just like, you know, keep trying and try to be like brother-in-law with an agent.
Yeah, exactly. My other favorite one is one that I think has gone around before, which is just a skull, and then it's got a little, like, thinking light bulb coming out of it, and it's how do I write someone smarter than I am? And it's fucking incredible, because it's like the most source filmmaker skull you've ever seen.
It really is.
And it's also touching its chin.
Yeah, it's also doing the thinking emoji. A lot of thinking emojis in these.
I really recommend watching some of these videos on mute and just watching his hands.
And here's the other Sander fact number 2. When will there be movies or video games based on my books?
I am always asking this.
Oh, God. Can you imagine a video game based on like Elantris or something? I assume if it was going to be one, it'd be based on Stormlight, right? But I don't know anything about that by design. I want to read it one day.
I will say that, like, you could just make a Dishonored game that's a Mistborn game.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, that is literally just one-to-one what that is.
It's even about, like, revolution. So, you know.
Should we summarize Elantris?
Yeah, all of it? Okay, let's go.
No.
Chapter 1.
No, scroll down
Crown
to
Prince
16.
Raoden of Arlon.
Scroll down to 16. Raoden reflects upon his relationship with Ian and observes to Galadon that his Sion's Aeon is damaged and incomplete. Galadon and Raoden discuss what they miss most in their former lives. Galadon's home and Raoden's correspondence with Serene, respectively. Raoden talks of his engagement to Serene, and this discussion leads to the revelation to Galadon of Fjordan's invasion of his home, Duladel Republic 6 months earlier. Shut up.
They just wrote it bad, I don't know.
Galadon mourns over the loss of his Jesker religion and belittles the Jeskeri mysteries as a mockery of his faith. Raoden returns to the chapel and is amazed at how beautiful it is with all the grime removed by Cahar. Raoden asks Cahar to clean the streets and offers more Elantrians to assist him. Cahar forgets his hunger due to the distraction that keeping busy provides. Raoden and Galadon discuss the growing ranks of their group and plan how to feed them and keep them occupied. Many of Karada's followers, led by Dash, leave the chapel to attack Aenden's group, due to reports that Aenden's followers are planning to attack the Elantrian children under Karada's protection. Raoden accompanies the assault squad and manages to convince both groups to stand down by confronting Aeden and showing him the beautiful sculptures beneath the dirt and grime and reminding him that he was once a great sculptor. Raoden also speaks of the Elantrian freedom Raoden also speaks of the Elantrians' freedom from base physical needs like food, clothing, and shelter, liberating them to focus on higher callings like art. Taean, that's Aenden, his name outside, Taean agrees and joins Raoden's group.
If we could all get naked and live in the street, we could all just do the sickest art that's ever happened. I get the food thing that we can live forever, but, like, we no longer need clothes or shelter. Like, bro... Bro,
sometimes it rains, dog. Like, you do need shelter.
I don't have time to get an umbrella. I'm busy practicing my martial arts.
Okay.
Sorry to skip ahead.
No, it's fine. So, we got like 3 short scenes in here.
I want to talk about the fact that this summary skips over the very first thing in this chapter.
What's the very first thing in this chapter?
Where Raoden reflects on... Yeah, house elves.
Yeah! Yeah!
Is this so also, I've not read the chapters in between this, so I have no fucking idea what's going on. I'm kind of blind. And from what I can gather so far, because I thought it'd be funny to pick this up by context. So Raoden comes into Elantris at the beginning of the book. I remember that. He wakes up and he's like, shit. I got the thing. And everyone's like, he's got the thing. Throw him in the place. And within 5 minutes of being there, apparently, he was like, what if we didn't all live on the street and kill each other? And
no one's had this idea in 10 years.
And apparently he has invented from whole cloth the entire concept of collective action and organizing into groups, despite the fact that the Elantris already has gangs, which means that they already have this, but just for like the crude, shitty version, not for doing things better. They must put down their weapons. Only he's thought about it doing this for without weapons, but that makes no sense because what are the gangs fighting for? Like gangs don't fight for violence; they fight for like control of. It's all the power is. I read too much materialism, and now my brain's broken.
When somebody gets put into Elantris, they're given a ritual burial, which includes like
some bread
and some bread as like a funeral offering. And since it never stops being hungry because their immortality is that like anything that happens to you stays happening. So if you break your toe, it's broken forever.
Yes.
At least that the pain is. And so everyone's always hungry. So everyone, whichever direction the new person steps in when they enter the city, that determines which gang gets to run up and steal their food.
But, okay, so are they hungry because they are dead and thus can't feel anymore? Or are they hungry because they don't have any food?
Both.
No, but, like, if they ate food, would they be less hungry?
They would
for
be,
a little bit.
but not for very long.
And nobody's thought of fucking making a garden before.
No one.
No, because
not one person in 10 years.
And initially, I thought it was like, oh, the hunger is like inherent to the Elantrian condition, and this is just like, you know, they have to live with eternal pain or whatever because this is an incredibly edgelord premise for a book. But no, you can actually ease the pain somewhat if you make a garden, and nobody's thought of this.
Well, everyone would be so hungry that they'll just eat all the sprouts as soon as they come up.
Obviously.
But why doesn't that happen to Raoden then?
We don't know because we don't actually get to see into Raoden's head. We had that one glimpse last time where he like very briefly admits to himself that he's like struggling under the burdens of leadership. But he has to maintain like a good face for everyone else to lead them. If
you want to say the idea that like because of the city that outside has abandoned Elantris so thoroughly, everyone is so deprived of like material needs that they can't form these collective bonds, that is an argument that you can make, and I can accept that in a book. What you can't do is then say, and then a king showed up and taught them all what leadership was and grew plants for them. That's a bit sus. Brandon sus.
He's a prince.
He's a prince, whatever.
But he's a prince that also, like, you have missed many chapters of everybody who used to know Raoden before he became an Elantrian, just, like, sucking him off, just, like, Raoden was
I can't
so
get hard anymore.
cool and Raoden was so cool and smart and witty and funny.
And he would have been such a good king because he cared about the peasants.
Yes, and nobody ever thought to care about the peasants other than Raoden.
And Serene, who says, slavery seems sus.
Yeah.
But also, he's like going, oh, I want the letters from Serena so much. She was so smart, and I respect her brain so much. And as we'll see next chapter, that makes him unique among men. But this chapter does later, it's like, oh, he's so pure and powerful, like cool guy prince dude that he wants to fuck this girl purely off her letters, and that's presented entirely positively.
They also have the Scions, which turn into, like, they do a Skype call where it turns into a glowing version of the other person's head so that you can talk to them. And presumably that's, like, he says that they had hours-long connections.
Yeah, he said that they would have, like, a 4-hour phone call, but also they've never met, which I would just argue about what his definition of meeting people is.
Well, he's only ever seen her head.
I read the first Serena chapter, you know, like a year ago, and my memory of it is she's never met him, and this is all a political arrangement, but she's gonna like take that political chance because she has to prevent war, and she knows what that means, and blah blah blah. Is such a cool, strong, like a man in his 20s in 2005's vision of a strong female protagonist, and she's going to do this. At no point do I recall her actually talking about. Also, we've talked for 5 hours every night on Skype.
That's not mentioned until chapter 5.
God damn it, Brandon!
Speaking of the Skype calls, so they do the Skype calls on the Scions, which have been just a constant, like, we're wondering what's going on with these things, and this chapter starts with a little flashback of, like, Raoden, like, oh, when I was young and dumb, I really wanted to free the Scions, but then the Scions told me that they love being slaves, and that they don't need money because they prefer to just be slaves. What the fuck, Brandon?
And this is presented as like a genuine realization. Which, much like the stupid house elf shit, is like, I see the basic metaphor there of like, I mean, in the house it's even worse, but like I guess most charitable intent is this guy is like trying to do this very paternal version of helping people, but instead can't understand the like truth of their culture. Problem is, all these cultures are made up, and what you did was made up a culture that just loves being your slave.
I guess, like, I guess it's supposed to be that they're so different because they're like immortal floating orbs of light that it's like, oh, well, maybe they don't have the same priorities or like ways of thinking as humans because they're not human. They're splinters.
You can't say that word.
I can't say splinters. But they're...
Why can't you say
they
that
are...
word?
That's Cosmere shit. That's like big Cosmere. That's not like big Cosmere shit, but like splinters are like a thing.
All right.
It's not a thing that's in the book. It's a thing from like fan discussion and Brandon answering questions.
Yeah.
Oh my god. How deep does it go?
The thing that he does is when he signs a book, you can ask him any one question about the books or the mechanics or the magic or anything.
I asked him to come on my podcast and talk about Final Fantasy X. Brandon,
Anyway.
if you're out there.
Brandon, if you're listening to this, please come talk to us about Final Fantasy X.
Scions are magic.
Mm-hmm.
They are as close to spirits as I guess Brandon writes.
Yeah.
So I guess you could argue that they have a completely different perception of these concepts. But they do everything the guy tells them to.
Do they get
We
hungry?
No.
Okay, so they are also like immortally separate from... Because this book has a vision of like the need for wealth as like entirely powered by base human desires, and without that we would be free. Like, this book's vision is like, if we could give everyone Soylent, we could end war, is what I got from these chapters. As like, all of human conflict actually comes from our like nature as rotting bags of meat, and if we could surpass that and become brains, we will win.
In a jar.
Jar. But that's like Raeden's argument in this chapter is like, when we have wars, like the wars are fought for countries, but the countries fight for money, and the money is used to buy food. So without the food, we wouldn't have wars anymore. And I, turn into the lady from Fargo, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure about your police work there, Raeden. But that is at least, honestly, the viewpoint put forward in chapter 16.
Yeah, no, we did like a whole like 30 minutes on like the agricultural setup of Elantris,
Which does not make any fucking sense.
Does not make any fucking sense, but like...
They didn't have crops until 10 years ago.
Anyway, we can't do it again, but like, you have absolutely hooked on to like the same things that we have hooked on to in this book, because Brandon, you need to understand materialism at all.
I'm told that he like reads a book of materialism and then like goes kind of too far for Mistborn.
yeah, extremely that.
So the thing is that the two things that make things happen in Elantris are either hunger or religion.
Yes.
That's it.
But religion's kind of fake, but also not. So don't worry, I will get into that in about 2 chapters.
Speaking of, there's not much to say about the conversation where Galadon finds out that his country has fallen. Oh, no, there is something to say.
Yeah. We got to choose our own leaders. Who would revolt against that?
So Raiden says, the Duladel Republic fell and was replaced with a monarchy, and Galadon says, but we all believed in the Republic.
The democracy. Our allegiance was to the Republic.
So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
It's just a dumb thing that happens. I don't have much to say about it.
Not leave it in darkness.
How can you say we got to choose our leaders and also say the Republican class was exterminated?
Also,
what makes somebody of the Republican class?
We talked about this on the last one, and it's probably like how Rome was set up, where there is this class of people who gets to vote on things.
So, do you get to vote on who gets to be able to vote on things?
I don't know.
Is
That's
this
a great
meant to
question.
be characterization of Galadon as like, oh, look at him, he's actually like a noble guy? And I mean noble in like the, class sense, not character. Of like, oh, he thought that a Roman Republic equaled something resembling real representation, and we see this. I assume not, because Raeden like presented as royalty. He's nice to the peasants, right? Like those two things next to each other are really weird.
Yeah. Galadon in a previous chapter is like, I was just a farmer, wink. And so I assume there's more to his backstory, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe he was like of this Republican class, quote unquote, but like we don't know quite where that's going yet.
You're thinking about 500 pages. He's going to end up being King Raiden of Elantris' ambassador to the Dildo Republic as he goes to liberate it from whatever.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Oh, I don't think we're leaving Kai. I don't think we're...
That's maybe too far for like how much plot movement takes place in one chapter and how many chapters are on his book. But
we also get this great line, what happened to Jesker? My religion, what happened to it?
What the fuck do you mean?
and then Raoden replying, Shudirith is the state religion in Duladel now. I'm sorry. Galadon's eyes fell. It's gone then. It's just like,
this was 6 months ago, right?
6 months ago.
6 months ago?
Yeah.
You remember when the Church of England was, established, and then Catholicism died within 6 months?
But also, earlier, like last time we recorded, we talked about the fact that, like, in Jindo, people give lip service to Shudirith and actually still practice.
I have no idea.
The core, like the root of that branch of the religion.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have their religion, even though they tell Wyrn that they are Shudirith all the way.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and like, does Brandon just not know what Tibet is?
I would absolutely believe that Brandon doesn't know what Tibet is.
I don't think Brandon knows what Tibet is. At least at this point in his career.
I don't know. Has he left? Has he done his mission work yet, or is that?
I assume he's done his mission work at this point.
Right, he did his mission. Brandon! I always forget.
We
Brandon's,
talked about this last time, but he did his mission work in South Korea, right? Or
I don't remember.
We talked about this last time. Anyway. We also get this line about, well, there are still the Jaskari mysteries, and Galadon being, they're not the same. They're a mockery.
South Korea, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, to keep things moving, so then the next thing in this is we find out that there are all these beautiful sculptures that are, encased in slime on the walls because nobody's cleaned Elantris in 10 years.
But also, they made a point multiple times to say that the city shouldn't look this bad in only 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about. There's way more slime than there should be.
There's weird slime on everything, but we're going to start cleaning it and showing off the sculptures, which leads to, like, there's going to be, like, a gang war. And the most absurd thing I've ever read in a book.
To be clear, specifically because one guy wants to kill the children?
Yeah, one guy, for no particular reason, is like, fuck them kids.
We're skipping over a slight bit.
Okay. Yeah, stop me.
The guy who was cleaning the church...
Right!
...is like, you have... my hunger doesn't impact me anymore because I have, found the meaning of life, and the meaning of worth is cleaning shit off this wall, which I guess forms some kind of like coherent value system with all the slavery shit at the start of the chapter of, oh no, this book just genuinely believes that if we get rid of money, we can all find meaning in just like incredibly menial jobs. Like, we will work for the love of it, and I don't mean like we'll do art for the love of it. I mean we'll clean grime of the cathedral, and it will fill us with spiritual peace.
So much spiritual peace that we will stop experiencing hunger.
This is the most I've just returned from my mission book that anyone has ever written.
But yeah, so this guy decides to go kill children for no reason, and another guy is gonna rush in to get him. One of Raoden's guys is gonna rush in to go get him first. and he's walking into a very obvious trap that only Raoden can see. And Raoden gets in the middle of the fighting and is like, I knew you outside, and I know that you're a sculptor, and look at these beautiful sculptures. And that guy starts crying because he remembers what sculptures are, and is like, this fucking guy, we should make him king. And so they do.
He uses the beauty of art, which is more potent than any sword.
He's completed the clean grime off shit subquest, and so has the hidden option to say, you're a sculpture! And then, it really plays like he just, like, disarms this guy with passing a speech at, because he's, like, ready to, like, literally murder children, and by murder, we don't just mean kill children, we mean possibly condemn to eternal existence as the very nature of pain itself to children.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what it means to, like, burn someone in Elantris, right? Because the pain stays on with any other physical wound. All that happens when you burn someone is you remove the body and any, like, ability to perceive them. So maybe the pain lives on. Who can say? Maybe. Ooh, then that'd be fucked up. Edge, like, nudge. And then he says, you did some sculptures, and then he, like, immediately collapses to the ground, like, what have I done?
The thing that you have missed is the fact that there is a nursery with 2 rooms, one where all the kids are playing and one where all the kids are crying.
Because the kids, like, one day,
Near Automata or some shit?
Like, the last rated chapter we had, I was like, yeah, sometimes the kids just, like, they'll, like, fall over, they'll, like, trip and, like,
one too many times.
They'll bump their funny bone, and then we just have to put them into the crying forever room, because then the kids just start crying forever.
But children are so resilient. They'll just get right back up. Then one too many times, and it's to the sad room.
But this is one of the worst lines I've ever read in a book, which is, so this guy, Taean, was going by the name Aendon. So Taean said, sighing, Aendon was a fool, and so was anyone who followed him. Listen to this man. There is more royalty in his argument than there ever was in my pretend court.
Elantris, hire this man!
There was more royalty in his argument. I can't believe that guy just argued me out of killing those children.
And of being a baron.
Thank you, King.
I'm joining his gang now.
This is the most over-explaining what is happening in the line bit of dialogue.
This makes twice now that Raoden has met one of the gang leaders of the 3 gangs and had, like, a conversation with them that ended with them saying, I will join your gang.
But we haven't met the 3rd gang guy yet, so I assume that's what the next one is, right? Like,
but not just I will join your gang, but like, I will join your gang because your philosophy means this and this is good. It's literally Mark Hamill going, but we can't turn back. Fear is the greatest of
But I think that'll do us for the rated chapter.
Chapter 17.
This is a Serene chapter, which I thought was serene because it's spelled serene, but apparently
you would think
it's
that.
Serene, which is a stupid name.
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to do my best with all these made-up words. Don't correct me till I've finished the whole thing, and then
Absolutely
we can
not.
see where we go. All right. Serene begins to teach fencing to Queen Eshen's embroidery group. Serene duels with Lord Eondul, who is very skilled but allows Serene to win as a gracious gesture. Not really what happens, but sure. Lord Shuden performs a Keishan exercise which impresses the group, though he claims only to be an amateur. Serene goes to a Karathi chapel to learn more from Father Omin about what a widow's trial entails. They talk about the Elantrians and how Hrathen may...
You had it right the first time.
Hrathen may be intentionally preaching hatred of them for some reason. It's going to take the world's greatest detective to figure out that reason, apparently. Serene learns of her inheritance of Raoden's estate. It's chapter 17. She didn't realize that she gets the estate of her husband, who she is legally married to, until chapter 17. She's supposed to be smarter than everyone else here. Anyway, Ash tells Serene of Hrathen's frequent patrols to the Elantrian city wall, and Serene ponders how to thwart the Gyorn's unknown intentions. Serene contacts her father, Evento. It's me, Eventio! It's me! I'm gonna win. Not really. And they discuss how grim affairs are becoming in both Teod and Arleon. But Serene refuses to return to Teod so that she can serve a useful purpose. And because none of the boys there want to fuck her. Eventio states that if Arleon falls, that he would surrender to the Fjorden rather than be conquered. Eventio reveals that Eoden's merchant ships are being sunk at the behest of the Wyrn, reducing his net worth and threatening his grip on the throne. Serene realizes this would make it easier to replace the king and reluctantly decides to side in opposition to Hrathen. After their conversation, Serene feels anxious and has a hard time falling asleep, and is awake to hear some odd noises coming from the walls around her chambers. What could that mean? Is she being spied on?
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I'm sure we'll know next chapter. So this was a lot.
This is a lot.
Where do we want to start with this?
Serene begins to teach fencing to Queen Eshen's embroidery group.
These basic women do not understand that we have to all fight. And in my culture, we fight, and you are doing knitting or whatever, and I'm going to teach you fencing. And some of these dumb girls are on their phones, and they won't listen to me.
They just sew and gossip. That's all they do.
Women be shopping.
And when fucking, like...
Yes.
Who's a hot guy? With fucking what's his name?
Shuden?
No. Shuden.
I've been picturing Shuden as Oscar Isaac.
When fucking Oscar Isaac starts doing sexy Tai Chi in the corner, they're like, oh, hello.
Oh my god.
So I'm fairly sure that Shuden being is meant to be like this universe's version of Asian, right? Like I can't tell exactly.
Yes.
Which is true, but I this this specific chapter played a little differently because of the weird like martial exercise thing. It played to me as if Worf had walked in and started doing his weird Klingon calisthenics at the back of the room, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, Worf's doing his Klingon calisthenics! That's so hot!" And so it basically became the funniest thing in the world. And I say that knowing that, like, this guy is coded as like Asian and not black, so it's like a slightly different coding as the stuff in TNG. And I say that so no, I'm not like conflating those two, but the description of I'm doing my warrior dances was too specific to that I could not laugh.
It's so dumb. And also afterwards, Serena's like, "Well, I'll never get all those girls to pay attention now."
They saw a hot guy.
Yeah, they saw one hot guy do a cool dance with his hands.
But also they're like hotness. So you have to tell me how the shooting stuff's played in the rest of the book, because here it plays as like a really uncomfortable. Oh look, we look, it's a hot foreign guy. He's hot and foreign.
Oh, it's
not like the guys here who are all proper. This guy's wild.
It's not that.
Okay.
It's like
that's
the
what
last
it plays
scene
like
that
when they see him doing his war stretches.
like in the last scene that Shuden was in, he was like the youngest noble at the gathering, and he was also like the quietest, and he had the wise words to like sway people to Serene's side.
Yeah, this is the thing, is that Jindo people are always talked about in the book as like the most wise, most patient, most like Shuden always has the right proverb for the occasion,
I don't remember why I started thinking about Oscar Isaac when reading about Shuden. I could have just been thinking about Oscar Isaac, but
this is what I have to say about everyone being the most. Oh, they've always got the right proverb on hands.
What was that noise?
That was my red alert. That was my red alert alarm.
Oh, okay. Naturally, I thought your house was on fire.
I was I gotta get this up quickly so it's funny, but I missed the window. No, it moved on, but I'd already clicked play and it was buffering. And I was like, I'm stuck now.
Yeah, but the thing that Brandon has done earlier is like, but the Jindo, like their eating implements are so weird and foreign, and as actually describing like a knife and fork.
Yeah.
It's reversed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I see what. Oh, it's very clever. Culture is all made up. You're right, Brandon.
Did you know that some people live different lives?
Should we also talk about her fight with Eondel?
Sure.
Sure.
It's just very funny because he's so loyal to his country that he wouldn't dare beat the queen in a fencing match. It's just funny.
Sorry, is this the first action scene we've had in the book?
This might be the first action
scene.
It's
the first fight. I think we had some chases in Elantris, but we didn't have any fights. This is the first fight scene in the book.
It's barely described.
Yeah.
It's that shit was so cool. We were throwing chairs, we were jumping on tables, like everybody. It was so cool. It's described
the same way that he describes preaching in the last.
Yeah, chapter. It is. Where it's just like, yeah, and then Deloff just, he said those really passionate words. They were very passionate. The words
that we will not be reproducing here in the text.
Yeah, but believe me, it was very cool.
But Eondel is such a good guy.
What a good knight.
Yeah.
I like that scene because I do appreciate the idea of this guy conceding this fight, because it makes Serena look very dumb in that Eondel understands politics enough to know that, well, I can't just like beat up our own queen in the middle of this like royal court as a allied but still tense, queen is sitting next to us. You idiot! Stop! We have to have this fight when no one's watching, so I can beat you up.
But also, this is the guy who Raoden is like, Eondel's men are just the best. Like, Eondel is such a good soldier. He's so loyal. He's just the coolest guy.
I'm gonna edit in that bass-boosted MGS3 song here.
No, you're not. This is a serious criticism podcast.
Ba ba ba. Yeah, without that context, I mean, that seems a bit like too much. But I did like Eondel's characterization here as like the guy who's actually thinking about the like, material consequences of politics, as Serena's being like, I have to teach everyone to fight, and by that I mean I'm going to fight the best fighter in our kingdom randomly. It seems like the rest of the book's laying it on thick, but compared to what else is around in these chapters, I'll take it. I liked it.
Yeah, this was a fun scene. I was thinking of just Ironwood. With Eondel, I was just picturing Ironwood. That's a character from Ruby, Jackson. You'll find out when you watch more Ruby.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot more Ruby.
Well, no, he shows up in season 2.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
you're right. If not season 2, then season 3. Anyway. So she goes to church and realizes she has money.
I love to go to church and realize I have money. She puts the last of her money that she brought with her from her home country into the offering box, not realizing that she's a princess. Still, she's a double princess.
She just didn't think about it for even 2 seconds. Ever.
I was shocked reading this. As someone who has skipped the rest of the chapters, the idea that like her position as now a royal in two nations, and thus has access to both power and estates, never even came up once until now.
Well, and also like.
Well, she was too busy getting sick dunks in on Hrathen while he was preaching.
It's like the third time it's happened, too. Because, like, she went to that party, and, like, everybody was, like, being nice to her. And she's like, why is everybody being nice to me? And, like, someone had to point out, because you're the queen, stupid. And, like, she went to something else, and somebody was like, hey, don't forget you're the queen. When you argue with people, they have to listen to you. because you're the queen. Also, you're like the queen/princess of 2 countries.
That's what Shuden had to say at that council meeting. He was like, let's remember that she's
because everybody else
going
in
to
the
be
room,
our queen.
Yeah, everybody else in the room also forgot that she was the queen. You know,
But Shuden is smart.
Very
He
wise.
remembers these things.
And then, like, slightly later than this, in this chapter, has a bit where she's like, nobody wanted to marry me because I was too smart and I wasn't hot like other girls. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what you were? You're going to be the queen.
But now she's not going to be because her brother has children or whatever. So now she's not in line. So that means...
Oh, that means that no one would ever think to marry a slightly not in line person towards the throne. No, there's no proximity to power there. Completely unbelievable. Just like, oh, they would make fun of a man if he married me because I'm so smart. And I'm like, what?
You love me, father. No parent wants to admit that his daughter is unattractive. The truth of the matter is, no man wants an intelligent wife.
That isn't true. Your mother is brilliant.
You're an exception, father, which is why even you can't see it. A strong woman is not an asset in this world. Not even a Teod, which I always claim is so much more advanced than the continent.
It is so cowardly, too, because he never, like, describes her as being, like, you know, ugly. In any way?
Not even once.
Because he'd be like, oh, that'd be rude. If I, as a man, described, like, impugned her attractiveness, that'd be me being rude. But you're like, you're trying to write a book about this woman who is, like, being, like, slighted by society. You have to actually commit to that. Like, you know, you could theoretically write a book about a fat person. We exist, Brandon. And, like... But no, she's just tall. She's tall. That's the only ungainly trait she is given in these descriptions. I don't know if it's been better in the other stuff. But it's like...
I don't know if you noticed, Jackson, there was a fat character in this chapter. She's described when her double chin jibbles weirdly.
Yes, because she's one of the women that be on their phone at the start. Their metaphorical medieval phone.
in the last chapter, her and her mom were in the sewing circle, and every time it was like, well, I couldn't believe how smart she was for how fat she was, you know, and shit like that. It was just like the most...
It was their daughter. I couldn't believe how hot the daughter was, considering both her parents were fat as shit.
Yeah.
It was... Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Come on.
It's a lot.
But he doesn't... The thing is, that also has not come up yet, he hasn't accidentally made her gay either. Which is the thing that he does do with a lot of his characters.
Yeah, every time he has this, like, spunky young woman character, he accidentally writes her super gay, and that would at least be enjoyable.
But he doesn't even do that in this one.
Yeah.
She has no... The thing that we've mentioned, or at least I've mentioned, is that everything feels like it started when the book started. Like, none of the characters feel like they've existed since prior to the book starting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so... I fucking completely lost my train of thought there.
Well, but it ties into, like... You go, Jackson. You go.
The book's really bad at, like, at least in these chapters, like, getting into people's heads and explaining their thought process, except when they want to have, like, a weird flashback and talk about the white slavery. And we except in next chapter where it's kind of better about that with Hrathen, but only because he is a Death Note character. So
Raiden thinks he's Lelouch.
Oh shit! He's Lelouch. He's evil Lelouch. Is Lelouch already evil? I don't know. Sound off in the comments. Let's have a conversation about the ethics of Code Geass in the chat.
If you have thoughts about the ethics of Code Geass, quote tweet the podcast and post them.
Anyway, where are we in chapter 17? The stuff in the Widow's trial. Oh, yeah, you go.
Yeah. I was just talking about how we don't see into characters' heads at all, and, like, in that way, like, Serene doesn't have ideology until now.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have feelings or opinions about things.
Yeah.
Because she existed, she sprung into, there's, like, she started existing 17 chapters ago.
Right.
she doesn't have, like, a context for anything.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care about her religion except that it's her religion.
Yes. And it's the truth. Anyway, getting ahead of myself slightly. Do we have stuff to say about the Widow's Trial? We should explain it for, anybody who might not be reading, but, like, basically, the Widow's Trial, which people didn't want to explain the Widow's Trial to her because it was of Elantris, and so it's kind of like a taboo to talk about. It's not, like, forbidden, it's just that nobody likes to talk about Elantris stuff, but so basically she just has to do, like, some good charity, like, charitable works for the city or the country, and that will be, like, to show how much she loved,
The more you loved your husband, the bigger your trial will be.
Yes, the better charity you will do. I don't have much to say about it. This guy she's talking to the whole time is a weirdo. He just keeps spacing out.
I just kept picturing the Dungeon Master from the D&D cartoon.
Okay.
The little guy in the red robe.
I don't know him. But yeah, I don't have much to say about the Widow's Trial itself. I guess maybe I probably will once it happens, but yeah, this is absolutely... I'll try to, like, put this guy into the episode art, because this is absolutely the guy. Here, send this to Jackson.
I'll post it in the export channel.
You have to stop posting things in the export chat. No one's going to remember this when the episode goes out. Also,
no,
it's in my Discord. It's in the Abnormal Mapping Discord.
I thought I needed to sneeze. I'm not posting it for the listeners. I'm posting it for the people who happen to tab over to export chat and just see out of context 3 images of Brandon Sanderson, followed by a picture of the Dungeon Master from Dungeons & Dragons, the cartoon.
You're lucky
it's not for anyone's benefit.
My Discord!
Stop looking at statues of the Dungeons and Dragons character and talk about Elantris.
Well, okay, let's get on with the rest of the chapter. The stuff with the guy is weird. She leaves that, and then she goes to talk to her dad. All that stuff with no one wants to marry me, Dad. And he's like, "What do you mean? You're beautiful." And she's like, "Shut up! I'm too smart." And she's like, "Oh, I guess that's true." But you're better than them, babe.
Also, he's just been oblivious to this for 20-some years?
No, he said he knew. He knew.
Okay. I just missed that part, I guess.
He does admit.
He says, like, I had wondered why no one wanted to tap that. Yeah, and then she's tall and too smart. It's like, go to the job interview. What's your greatest weakness? She's like, I'm tall and too smart. I'm tall and too smart, and I'm too powerful, and that's why no one wants to marry me, and everyone agrees and nods at me.
The problem with that is that it can't even be a self-insert because it's Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be, but, like, it's not.
The other thing here is,
No, sorry. The self-insert is absolutely Raoden, who's been reading this lady's letters and being like, I want to fuck her from her words.
I think Hrathen.
Do you think Hrathen?
I really do.
Okay.
Do you think this is him writing about how religion's evil and kind of working through it?
No, I think it's a little bit of working through, like, oh, I'm complicit in something that might be a little bit suspect.
Mm-hmm.
How do I feel about that, and how do I navigate that?
When I say religion's evil, I mean, the Hrathen thing is like, he still believes, right, but he sees religion as an artifice, and thus as like a means of power controlling people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the stuff being worked through in Hrathen's chapters.
Maybe they're all self-inserts.
Maybe.
I mean, that's a secret. That's true of every author's all of their characters. Everyone, authors don't have that good an imagination.
The other thing, other than the like intelligence stuff in this phone call, is the dad saying that like, oh well, if Erelon falls, Teod's just gonna surrender because we're fucked. And just these incredible lines like this, Her dad says, I found a reason to become very religious lately. A wise choice, father. If Domai were ever going to help us, it would be now. The end of Teod means the end of Shu-Korath. For a time, perhaps, her father said, truth can never be defeated, Sereni, even if people do forget about it occasionally. Truth starts to become like a proper noun in these chapters that is like, in this chapter that is thrown around in like this religious way that Shu-Korath is the truth. I don't know what that fucking means. I wish Brandon would explain the theology at all.
The way, the truth, and the light?
Is that a Star Wars reference?
It's a Christianity reference.
Could I just frame that interaction? I did not read that in this chapter as like indicative of the canonicity of Shu-Korath, because it's like, you know, it's Aventio saying it, so I assumed it was just he believes very strongly. I don't.
Maybe I read it too much into it. You know,
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? We still don't know why they kicked all of the Shu-Dareth priests out of Teod.
Yes,
like so violently and suddenly.
Yes,
that's just a thing that's been mentioned, is that there are no Darethi priests in that country anymore. No, wait, there are, because there's one that leaves, right? There aren't any Gjorns?
I don't remember. Okay. Sorry, there's just...
He gives a story about the ambassador is like, fuck this, I'm out.
Oh, the ambassador.
The ambassador leaves, and then they keep sending spies in, but they die too quickly. And then she's like, so when you send a spy, you're condemning them to death. And he's like, yes, but I must do it, for heavy is the head that wears the crown. And she's like, oh, the burdens of leadership. And I'm like...
Eventio's like, the ambassador was a Jedi Knight, I believe.
Is that a Christianity reference? And then I'm basically reacting to all this like, damn, why is half the plot of this book happening somewhere other than here, but all of the point of view characters are in the same city? What's up with that? Surely if this is like a global war with multiple fronts and conspiracies, you could move the characters around.
Yeah, that's a lesson that Brandon learns for Stormlight, which is a story spanning like 6 countries and 12 POV characters.
Yeah.
I'm just, you say that and I'm like, oh, I gotta read Stormlight.
It's good. You would love Stormlight, that's the thing. I don't mean to be this person, but also that's just, I know what you like.
I was having a conversation the other week, talking to Em about movies to do for retro screens, and I listed a couple, and I was like, wait, all of these movies are just the same. They're all like, kind of realist stories about war and politics that are sad. and Em was like, you no longer allowed to pick any movies. You have to watch a normal movie about a relationship for once. And Stormlight seems like the fancy version of that, just like an extreme one of those.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I was going to say he kind of sections off, like, the sadness is over here, but I guess every character has
every character has depression.
Yeah, but some characters have capital D depression.
I have seen a lot of posts from you, motherfuckers, and you cannot tell me, they're not that sad, from the things you've been posting. Otherwise, you've all been lying to me.
They all have depression.
But not all depression is created equal.
we cannot spoil Stormlight.
Okay. All I know is one person told me one time that I had acute depression. I
was trying to come up with a funny joke and I couldn't.
You always tried to do. I was a little cute.
Like a belly button.
Yeah, like.
I was told I was depressed because of recent circumstances, not I had depression. So.
Chapter 18. Do you want to read the summary?
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, we should mention the reason that this plot to take over the throne works is because Eodon has a system set up that grants titles based on wealth, so he has to be the wealthiest to make him king.
Yeah, if he is less wealthy than someone else, he loses the throne.
And he can't cheat the system.
Yeah.
The system is the system.
Which is ludicrous because, like, you Right, I have to talk about this bit. Sorry.
Wait, sorry, before you do that, the only reason he's on top is because he includes national taxes under his personal income.
About to say, right? Because, like that, right? And the whole thing is, like, when you're the king, you don't have to have a private business to be rich. You have all the money. It goes to you. That's what being a king means.
But no, he was all the nobility are the merchant class who rose up and took, like, all the servants rose up and killed all their masters, but then the merchants are the ones who took power.
That is a thing that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, in at the same time with the Elantris stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an idea there, but it seems really muddled.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this whole book.
But you see, the servants, they were the servants of gods. They were treated so well that they revolted.
When their gods died.
They instantly saw weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
That lines up with all the stuff about, finding...
Yes.
Oh, it's all coming together. I'm dropping the coffee cup.
You're dropping the coffee? Not on your laptop, I hope.
It's a reference to a movie that is bad, and I don't want to talk about it, but it's a cultural reference.
Oh,
Chapter
Usual Suspects. I was trying to remember which movie. I knew the GIF in my head. I couldn't remember which movie.
Like, two of the people who are involved are fucking,
Oh, right.
Yeah, so let's just move on from that.
Okay.
I was trying to think, like, what that one movie where somebody drops a cup. Chapter 18. Hrathen is interrogating Diran and Elantrin in his office. Dilof is shocked by this, but Hrathen explains that he needs to know his enemy. Hrathen asks Dilof to prepare their nightly sermon, then dismisses him to talk further with Diran, who speaks of hunger and gangs. Hrathen then has the guard captain escort Diran back to Elantris. Dilof preaches zealously at the chapel that evening, speaking out against Elantris at first, then segueing into a speech against Shukoreth as ordered by Hrathen. Then Dilof reveals that he took custody of Diran and tortured him, and drives the crowd into a murderous frenzy against the Elantrian. But Hrathen interjects and manages to redirect the mob away from executing Diran, since that would turn Iadon against him, instead preaching that they should stop following Karethi heresies. After the sermon, Hrathen has Diran brought to the chapel gardens, and privately has him burned alive to put him out of his misery. Hrathen berates Dilof for his overzealousness and overreaching of his authority. Hrathen concludes that Dilof is a liability and must be dealt with. Hrathen contacts Forton, a subject of Hrovell, who has performed various services for the Gjorn in the past, and asks that he create a special elixir and deliver it to him in Aralon as quickly as possible.
Hrathen
Hrathen contacts Forton, a subject of Hrovell, who has performed various services for the Gjorn in the past, and asks that he create a special elixir and deliver it to him in Aralon as quickly as possible.
Every time I see Aralon, I want to say Arleon, because that, rolls off the tongue better, but it's not. It's Aralon.
It's actually Arelon.
Arelon?
Aralon.
Aralon?
The audiobook narrator says Aralon.
Aralon. That's that hacker group from
But
Watch Dogs, right?
also, I don't trust this fucking narrator, because he says words different sometimes.
This was not a book read at, this is not after, Sanderson's big enough to be like, here's a pronunciation guide.
There is a pronunciation guide for Elantris on his website, though.
But I don't think the audiobook narrator had it or cared.
But, there's definitely the two readers who do Sanderson.
Yeah, well, okay, so going forward, he has Michael Kramer and Kate Reading, who are very popular audiobook readers, do his stuff. And it's very funny because sometimes, Michael Kramer and Kate Reading are married, and every now and then, they will differ on how to pronounce something, and there is a fandom tendency to get mad at Kate for mispronouncing things, instead of just, somehow it's always Michael that's right. It's never Kate that's right about the pronunciations in the view of the fandom. I don't know why that is. Thinking emoji.
They're so woke. Everyone in this audience is just so woke.
Anyway, What do we say about this fucking
Do we
want to
talk about the Fjordell curse?
What's the Fjordell curse?
Brook of Jaw!
I don't...
What did the audiobook reader say that one like?
I think the audiobook narrator just said Deloff yelped a Fjordell curse. I don't think he even tried that. I don't remember him saying that. I do not remember Hroketh Jaw.
Hroketh Jaw? Or Yaw, maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah? Jadith?
I feel like this...
Is it Yadith or Jadith?
Jada.
So it's Ja.
Oh, I don't like that.
What is there to say about these chapters? I'm trying to think of like what the thing to hook on in these chapters is.
My Hrodin.
Deloff, formerly Igor coded, now seems to be catching on to like what's going on. Because Deloff is like, oh, the deadline, and Hrathen's like, how did you know about the deadline?
How does he know about the deadline? He can't. He must be bluffing, unless.
Haha. Yeah, what is there to say about this chapter?
Well, this chapter, at least for me, because I haven't seen the other Hrathen chapters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I stopped midway through the first Hrathen chapter, and as I was just overwhelmed with Hrathen calling Forton the subject of Hrovell. And just shit like that for 20 pages. I'm realizing that shit was still going on in chapter 18. Like, no, it hasn't slowed down. Very funny.
No, it's awful.
But Hrathen thing seems to be, like I said, like, understanding that his religion is a power structure with which to influence people in order to, like, serve his nation's, like, goals of becoming a world power. And basically on the, like, whims of already being able to do that. And almost
because he's done it.
They've done it.
He just 6 months ago incited a rebellion in the Duladel Republic to turn it into a monarchy loyal to the Fjordell Empire,
and wiped out the Jesker religion.
Yeah, and like he's haunted by his past of like, oh, revolution is so scary. I can't do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Hrathen's meant to be sympathetic?
Yeah, Hrathen is supposed to be the sympathetic bad guy.
Did not get that from this chapter.
Understandable.
There were bits, I guess, where it's like, oh, Dilaf's just the fucking Joker, so he's going to burn this guy alive. I don't think we should burn guys alive. But it absolutely just reads as like a strategic disagreement.
Well, it is. So
it's
Hrathen
weird and complicated.
Hrathen is like always the strategic guy who's like,
Lelouch.
trying to think. Yeah, he's Lelouch. Raoden is also Lelouch, as covered on a previous episode of this podcast.
Just Lelouch is all the way down here.
Well, Hrathen is like, I believe in this religion because it makes logical sense, and the hierarchies make sense, and I'm comfortable with the structure that this provides the world.
Mm-hmm.
I like the logic and the structure of this worldview, and it makes me feel comfortable. And he's like reckoning with the fact that Deloff is this like passionate, like fervent person that he has never been.
Well, and also he's trying to reckon with trying now to turn his like strategic mind on doing this, like doing the imperialism thing non-violent, as like with as little bloodshed as possible. Like that is the thing that he's focused on now because he saw all the bloodshed in Duladel and that freaked him out.
He doesn't want to convert from the bottom up now. He wants to convert the nobility, and so that in name it will be a Shudareth country, so that he doesn't have to have the however many like soldiers march in and like fight people, which is at the end of the deadline.
Yeah.
So the thing about burning people is that Elantrians burn really fast. That was established early on in one of the Raoden chapters, but nobody really knows for sure if that helps you or kills you.
Yeah, no one actually knows, because, like, what are you gonna do? You gonna risk getting burned alive and finding out? Like,
yeah, like, the thing with them is that, like, when they, the paranoia... Elantrians can't stop experiencing sensation, but if you get rid of their body by burning it, you can't hear them or see them anymore. So they're like their matter is gone, but does their pain live on? Do they just become pain itself?
Well, we know as readers of other Brandon books some details about this because every being has 3.
No, I'm pulling you out. You can't. This is too deep Brandon lore.
We can't talk about realmatic theory?
No!
Okay.
I take it back, I'm not going to read these books. Realmatic theory? What is going on?
Basically,
No!
I'm going to be quick and concise.
Okay.
Because this is undermining everything that Brandon writes in the Cosmere.
Okay.
There are 3 facets of existence. Physical, cognitive, and spiritual.
And so, when you burn an Elantrian, the cognitive and the spiritual might still persist on, just suffering.
Right. But, the cognitive is ideas that are created by thinking, like, those kinds of ideas. And then the spiritual is ideals, like the Platonic idea of a concept. That's what the spiritual realm is. So it's complicated in that we don't understand like what the Elantrian system in place is that Brandon is writing this through.
So when a person is created, they have a body, a heart, and a soul. And when they're separated from the heart becomes a heartless.
Yes.
Okay.
And the body becomes a nobody.
The body becomes a corpse. We can talk about cognitive shadows in about 6 years.
No, we can't. Well, no, unfortunately, we have to.
We will have to.
I have nothing about this chapter. I really don't. This is, like... This is just kind of like... Oh, I do have stuff about this chapter. I found the, the burning the Elantrian alive stuff, like, kind of like stuff that, like, Deloff has already done a little bit. But, let's talk about Hrathen calling up his weed guy.
Yeah, so...
Dude, I need that WMD, is what he basically says. That's one of the names they have for their for the heroine in The Wire.
So, the man laughed happily, though the laugh quickly turned to a wheeze. Forton had a chronic cough, a condition Hrathen was certain by the various substances the man was fond of smoking. Of course, my lord, he said through his coughing. When am I not well? Forton was a man utterly contented with his life, a condition that was also caused by the various substances he was fond of smoking.
Brandon met one guy in college who smoked weed, and it blew his fucking mind.
I mean, considering Brandon's background, it would.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But he is a guy who's high all the time, and he knows how to make potions and poisons and elixirs, and we don't get to know what Hrathen is up to because the book needs to reveal things, so we just don't have that information.
The audiobook narrator also narrates, the weed guy is talking like this, man. He's just like, yes, my lord Hrathen, I'll totally get you that potion. It's so much. It's also funny because that's also the voice he does for Galadon, and so it sounds like he calls Galadon. Because his Galadon voice is also like, Suli, what are you up to?
Suli? The Sule. I was reading that Sul because that's how it's spelled.
Yeah, it's Suli, and he's always like, Suli, what are you up to?
It makes it sound like me.
That's stupid. The Suli thing, stupid. Really dumb.
I was just a farmer.
Yeah, I was just a farmer.
A farmer of life, my guy.
I cut... We forgot to talk about Galadon being like, I cut every tree that made my house, man.
Oh God, yes, right. Because it's better to have a house you build yourself than to have a mansion built by servants. If you don't lay the house yourself, you can't have real satisfaction. If you don't clean the shit off your cathedral with a toothbrush, you can't say it's truly beautiful. Meaning is found through the individual. This book's politics are wild.
Yep.
We're finally getting a consistent picture of them in these chapters, because it's been confusing. It's becoming less confusing, just dumber.
I thought the Hrathen chapter was like fine. I guess it wasn't super interesting. The Hrathen's like whole conflict here is very, very rote. As like, I'm the noted bad guy, but I'm the one who doesn't want to do the murder. But I'm also smarter than everyone. But also that means that I've got to shoot Dilaf in the head next week because he's gone too far and I can't control him. So he's like doing.
He's gone too far again.
Yep, he's gone too far again, and
he's failed me for the last time. Apology accepted, Artef Dilaf.
I have forgiven Artef Dilaf.
This chapter also sneaks in the revelation that this entire book has only been 14 days, and it blew my fucking mind.
Wait, so within 2 weeks, you're telling me that Raoden has not only been the first person to invent, like, we should have some farms here, and we should, like, do things together.
Yes.
But that's 2 weeks.
Also, in the last 2 weeks...
Also recruited 2 of the 3 gangs that were there when he started to join under his banner.
Yes.
Also, in the last 2 weeks, Hrathen has apparently converted hundreds of people. Like, enough that they don't fit in the cathedral.
This is the thing that I was frustrated about in the Hrathen chapter, which is, like, the book is going into a lot of detail about the, like, geopolitical situation outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the various kingdoms and alliances that form the balance of the world, and who's aligned with who, and what this could tip this war in this favor, and this thing happened 10 years ago in the bubble. So there's lots of like moving pieces in the air and different like interlocking powers, which is interesting, but not because it's all some guy saying, "Oh, hey, I got a letter that this happened a week ago." Like all of these things get explained in some like weird happenstance way where someone mentions it and he's like, and someone else goes, "You what?" Like that happens multiple times. But when it comes to the city itself, it's like a generic the people. Hrathen could control the people. And it's like, what people? I guess we have like a merchant nobility class and a king and this religion that's like, clearly, I was going to say evil, but I don't mean that, clearly like obviously like a corrupting influence on the power of the state that currently exists here, so they should have just kicked it out immediately because you're the king, you can do that. And your justification could be, look at what happened to our allies. This is clearly not on the level. I think they're dumb for... I don't know. Maybe the book gets into why they didn't do that, and it's probably something like, we can't be seen to be interfering with the religion. The people will riot or something. But it's always...
That's kind of it.
It's always in that generic sense of, like, at least in this chapter, like, the people. Dilaf put the people into a frenzy, but Hrathen, with his masterful control, put the people back on his course, and then they would tell the other people, and the people would grow, and his war number grew up by 200.
His war assets.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tied into the thing we were saying earlier about, like, you don't actually get the fight scene that Serene and Eondel have, and you don't get the sermon that Dilaf gives. You just hear, Dilaf gave a sermon, and it was like this.
We get more of it in this chapter than before, but still not much.
Still not much.
Oh, there's more in this one than the other chapters?
Yeah.
No, there's less. There's more like just describing the structure and like the art of sermon.
Yeah. There's just like... There's a chapter where Hrathen just stands in the back of the church thinking about the art of, like, rhetoric and not actually, like...
doing any rhetoric?
Yeah, doing any rhetoric. So, the closest thing we get is all the times that, like, every single time Serene and Hrathen have been on the same, have been in the same chapter, they have, like, YouTube-style debates basically.
Hrovell is giving a sermon on the walls of Elantris, and then Serene shows up and does her bimbo act, which wasn't in this chapter. I was disappointed that Jackson didn't get to see the bimbo act.
There's a bimbo act? What?
Yeah, Serene pretends to be dumb all the time so that everybody underestimates her. That's her thing.
Oh.
Why are you painting in the center of my court? Well, you said to go to the court. I didn't say in the middle. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh. It's because they underestimate women. They don't think women can be smart, but she's actually super smart. But then there was a line that was like a justification of why it's not sexist that she's the only smart woman. I was like, she was unusually smart for a woman, but not really, because all women were smart and all women are queens. They just knew they had to hide it till they were married. And she was showing them they could do it. I'm like, because he realizes by making this like character so exceptionally smart and cool and strong female character, like he is inadvertently saying that every other woman is being on their phones dumb. And is trying to push back against that bit, and only in ways that make it more obvious what he's doing.
I wonder what Hrathen's weed guy is up to. That's another frustrating thing, is I would like to know what potion he needs. We get the like, oh yeah, I can totally get that potion to you. It'll just take 2 weeks. And it's like, just tell us what the potion's for.
Yeah, like if this were Sanderson of like 8 years forward in time, that scene would have been its own little aside, like a side chapter from the POV of
Forton of Hrovell.
Of Forton, a subject of Hrovell. And he would have gotten the phone call, yeah. And then he would have we would know what he was up to, but we wouldn't know when that would come into play.
Right.
But we would know the pieces on the board.
You ask what's the potion he needs, a giant bum gif panning to the back and pointing at the weed side.
It's just CBD oil.
Hrathen's just like, I'm really uptight lately, man. I just gotta chill.
Wait, is his reaction to, I need to take care of Deloff, I need to Amazon Prime some poison for 2 weeks from now, so that Deloff has plenty of time to cause more mischief?
Surely he just stabbed that guy, right? Nori is making a face.
Have we had any indication that Hrathen is martial-minded?
No, but he knows where Deloff sleeps.
Yeah, but he wears plate mail all the time.
I would like...
And that gives you a penalty. There's an armor check penalty to stealth. And you can't add your dexterity modifier.
I don't mean to spell it out for you, but he's going to put the poison in the drink. He's going to make him drink this poison. He's going to poison him, and then he's going to die of poison.
2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from now!
Well, I guess a lot can happen in 2 weeks, considering how long the books have taken place over.
Also, I should just note, according to the audiobook, at the end of this chapter, we are now 41% done on chapter 18 of 63, so... Just gonna speed up at some point, I assume.
That's the right move, because I was reading The Stand, and The Stand I'm over halfway through the chapters, but 40% through the book, and the chapters are all an hour long now, and I think long chapters going into shorter chapters is the way. You feel better about yourself.
It's how every Sanderson book is structured.
Good.
Which is
he understands.
Until you get to the one chapter in future book that is a novella length.
Yeah, there is one 100-page chapter in future book.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess the book itself is going to be within the deadline of Hrathen's arc.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense of
that coming to a head as the climax, not as part of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not going to go farther than that time-wise.
Yeah, maybe a week past that, but still. Anyway, sounds like we're winding down. Sounds like we've
gotten all the laughs we can get out of Forton, the subject of Hrovell.
We'll never get all the laughs out of that we can. Jackson, where can people find you online?
People.
Jackson, where can people find you online?
Well, they don't check line, so try something else.
I check line occasionally. If I didn't check line, how am I on this podcast?
That's true.
Checkmate, atheists.
Checkmate, atheists. You can find me at headfallsoff on twitter.com. You can find the podcast that I do, usually with M, at abnormalmapping.com. There's a bunch of cool ones there. If you subscribe at our Patreon for $1 a month at patreon.com/abnormalmapping, you can listen to The Great Gundam Project, a weekly Gundam podcast. We're going through all of Gundam. We're in 08th MS Team right now, and we'll be starting After War Gundam X pretty soon. You should listen to those.
A lot of this podcast is inspired by the Great Gundam Project.
Specifically
such as
the part where it's going to take a decade.
Yeah, we're starting at the beginning, we're going through all of it, and we're not talking about or thinking about things that happen ahead of us before we get there.
I'm thinking about things that happened ahead of us, but I'm trying to keep it off the podcast.
We've already corrupted the timeline because we like these books.
Yeah.
If this was like, oh, let's get into Sanderson by doing this podcast, we would quit.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we would.
Because this is not a good intro to Sanderson.
No. And it would take us 4 years to get to Way of Kings, the best book ever. There are better Sanderson books in the Way of Kings. But anyway, Nora, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at neither Nora. You can find stuff I do at norablake.online. I'm on lots of podcasts here at Export Audio. Subscribe to the Patreon and you can find bonus episodes for this one when they come out, which we haven't done in a while. We'll get to it. You can also listen to Duo Lane, where Olivia and I hang out before we record our League of Legends podcast. Sometimes we play Minecraft. Sometimes we talk about Kamen Rider. Mm-hmm. There's also other stuff. I'm on abnormalmapping.com.
What's that?
It's a podcast about anime. I do a podcast called Journal Updated where Molly and I play video games with choices and stuff. And we're playing Mass Effect Andromeda this month.
You can find me on Twitter at autumnal_coffee. I've got a pinned tweet with links to all the podcasts we do. And if you go to the Patreon, you can find links, or all the podcasts that I do are on my Twitter. All the Export podcasts are on exportaud.io. That also takes you to the YouTube channel, where hopefully I will soon be finishing up my playthrough of Resident Evil Remake HD Remaster.
I'm playing Assassin's Creed, but I lost all the footage of my first video, so I'm gonna have to... I'm not starting over either, so I'm dealing with that moving forward. And also, we stream fighting games on that channel, which we're gonna go do after this recording.
Yeah.
Not right after, we're gonna eat dinner first.
Yeah.
We're gonna probably play some...
Melty Blood? Melty Blood or Unist? Undernight?
It's Uniclear now, not Unist.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, come watch us play fighting games. We do a nighttime show where we fuck around with games that we don't really necessarily care if we're good at, called Sleeper Hit, and then we do a morning stream sometimes with the games that we actually want to focus on, called Wake Up DP.
Yeah. I was gonna plug one more thing. Oh yeah. Tilly might be back next episode. Might take a little longer. We'll see. If not, more guests.
Yeah. And you should listen to their other podcast, Higgledy-Piggledy Will Statements. Tick, and I'm talk like a clock.
I'm leaving. I'm fucking leaving.
All right. Do we have a sign-off yet for this podcast? I
always forget. Keep it Rubio.
No! We will say...
There you go. Got it. Nailed it.
I want to do the oaths. I feel like the oaths...
We can't do that until 6 years into the podcast.
I know.
We have one for Mistborn lined up, so that's fine.
There's just nothing in Elantris to hook onto.
I guess, truth can't... Until next time, remember, truth cannot be defeated. Only forgotten or even if it's forgotten for...
No.
You okay there? You okay there?
I have a copy of Dune next to me. I'm gonna open this copy of
Fine,
Dune.
open the copy of Dune that is mine, by the way, and find a passage to be our sign-off for the Elantris arc of Ars Arcanum.
Lightning McQueen, call it Cars Arcanum.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm flipping to...
Find something not racist.
I'm closing the book. We've got a bookmark in here. I'll just read something from the page that's bookmarked.
How about this? Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
That's boring.
Okay.
The Orange Catholic Bible.
No!
No, I'm ending it. It's over.
Stop it. I'm gonna find the thing.
Okay. Life before death.
No. Where are...
I just think that there's 3 of us and there's 3 oaths. We could say the oaths.
I feel like Forton, the subject of Hrovell right now.
Can y'all be nice to me?
I just want to end the podcast.
Please, could I press the
Truth,
stop recording
until next
button?
time, remember, truth can never be defeated, even if people do forget about it occasionally.
Stupid. I'm hitting
That's
stop.
our sign-off now for this arc.